and welcome into First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. It is Monday. We got 2 games of the NBA Finals in the book.
Yep.
We are well on our way towards.
We might be halfway done with them. I hope we're not, but we might be halfway done with them.
All right. Good weekend?
Great weekend. Absolutely. Okay. Great weekend. Fun. Good golf tournament to watch. Good basketball to watch.
Every day's a holiday in my life.
There you go.
So positive.
What a great outlook.
Breath of positivity, CC.
What a big whopper lie. Here comes
Hey, how did the Cavs and Warriors follow up an insane Game 1 of the NBA Finals? Yes, with Game 2, but it wouldn't be as dramatic, and the Warriors made sure it wouldn't be as close. While LeBron followed up his 51-point performance with a modest 29, Steph Curry carried the Warriors 33 points, including 9 3-pointers. That is an NBA Finals record. And get this, under Steve Kerr, they're 109-8, 109-8 in the playoffs and regular season when Steph scores 30 or more. Again, under Steve Kerr. More now from people who aren't me.
I wouldn't necessarily say surprise. He's a big shot taker, big shot maker, tough shot taker and tough shot maker. And he did that tonight. The one where he was falling away I wouldn't necessarily say surprised about that, but it's like, oh, man, he really got it going. But, we've seen this before, where he completely just takes the game over with his scoring ability. And, he did that tonight.
He was tremendous and 9 threes and seemed to hit a big shot every time we needed one. But, yeah, he was fantastic.
So, CC, the Warriors have looked a little more like the Warriors that we've come to know over the course of the last couple years. How are they able to win Game 2 so convincingly last night?
Well, the first way is defensively, the Cavs couldn't figure them out, especially early. I mean, too many layups, too many dunks at the rim. I mean, the Warriors didn't have to depend on their great shooting early. They were getting everything they wanted as far as layups. The inability to be able to switch defenses for the Cavs was a problem. And the lack of support for LeBron James continues as we see this series go on. LeBron, I thought that he would have to come back from 50 points. So he was a distributor in the game. He was effective offensively, but the concentration of Warriors, what they were going to do in the lane, they wouldn't let LeBron ISO. They did a lot. They took a page out of Boston's book from Brad Stevens, where when LeBron had the ball, if they weren't in a high pick and roll, there was at least 3 guys in the lane, and the other guy was close to the lane. So these were the things that the Warriors made adjustments when you're in series like that. That's what you see teams do from Game 1 to 2. They knew they got away and stole game number 1. But I thought they would come out more focused in game number 2 with an intensity defensively that the Cavs had in game number 1, the Warriors had in game number 2, which led to the victory, Nick.
Well, and I know we're going to talk a ton about Steph, but I want to add to the defensive point because the Warriors in Game 2, they were trapping LeBron when they could. They were doubling him near half court at times when they could. And the only quarter all game the Cavs actually won was the quarter the Warriors have won this whole postseason, the third quarter. Why was that the one quarter the Cavs won? Because that was the one quarter when LeBron was trapped, when LeBron was doubled, and he found the open man repeatedly. Those guys were either hitting the shots LeBron created or making the extra pass to an open three-point shooter. The Cavs hit 9 3-pointers in this game. They hit 5 of them in that third quarter. It's a smart game plan by the Warriors. LeBron still almost got 30, but they basically said, we are going to spend our entire defensive effort on containing you and see if JR can hit shots. See if George Hill can hit shots. See if anyone other than Kevin Love can hit shots.
Wait, they didn't do that in Game 1?
Game 1, they weren't doubling him near half court.
No.
They weren't trapping him. They were playing him more straight up. They let Kevin Durant guard him one-on-one, which is what Durant did in last year's finals. They let Draymond have chances at him. And last year, of course, they had Iguodala. They didn't have that in Game 1. But no, they changed the way they guarded LeBron, which made LeBron more of a distributor. He got the 13 assists. He could have had 20. Guys missed shots. And so it's exactly what I would do if I were Golden State. I think it's smart. And then you have the fact that Steph erupted in the fourth quarter. Like, everyone, today's going to be the Steph day, and I understand that. It was the fourth quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, he was 6 of 18 with 17 points.
Yes.
And then he beat the brakes off the Cavs in the fourth quarter. Period, point blank. He was unconscious in the fourth. And Dre mentioned the shot with the shot clock winding down, which is a backbreaker. Oracle erupts. You feel like, oh, my God, we had a great defensive possession. Here's the thing. Yeah, there's some luck involved. Man, I've watched Steph Curry warm up. I've watched Steph Curry practice. He practices those situations. He has the coaches roll balls out to him at odd angles where he picks it up and just tosses it up. So, yeah, that is a lucky shot, but it is less lucky for Steph than any other player in the league. Like, there's some luck involved in any of those, but he practices that.
Yeah, it would have been lucky if the ball hit off the backboard at the top.
Sure.
All right? Hit off the shot clock and went in. But if you look at Steph's motion, he has that's his natural shooting motion. Like, that's what he's going to do. Great shooters, they make things happen. So, to me, it doesn't have much to do with luck.
Maybe luck's the wrong word.
I'm going to change that from your vocabulary.
Okay, fair enough.
Because the higher level we talk about, less luck has to do with.
My point is that's any shot you make at the end of the shot clock that's not what the offense wanted. That wasn't their plan going into that possession. But as far as
now, if he had made the one left-handed, the one they gave him the ball, where he tried to get a lean in the foul,
and they just said Warriors ball. But the point I was trying to give him credit there, like there is less luck involved in Steph making that shot than any other player in the league because he practices those shots because he is able to keep with his shooting form. And we saw once again, Jenna, there are two sounds Oracle makes: a regular Warriors run and a Steph Curry Warriors run. They love this guy, and he elevates that crowd and his team to a level unlike any of his teammates.
Did it feel like the Warriors were a little more balanced in this game than in the last couple games we saw where they needed a breakout quarter to either get back in or to take this game? Did it feel like, or did they not get what the Cavs probably wanted to put out there? Obviously, they struggled defensively.
Well, the Warriors knew exactly what they wanted to do. They knew that they were going to slip on the pick and roll offensively. They knew they were going to slip the pick and roll and try to get as many buckets at the hoop early. That's what they were able to do. Kevin Durant said before the game, he took some bad shots in game number one, said he's going to be more selective, and you saw that with him. Klay was typically doing what Klay did. When they needed a bucket, he went on a couple little runs there to give them a little boost before Steph got hot, because if people aren't careful, you'll think that, man, Steph was like LeBron in game number one. He wasn't. He had a good fourth quarter, and his shooting percentage still was not a very good one. Right. But when you have the 9 threes in the game, I would say Steve Kerr and what they wanted to get offensively, they were able to get the type of looks that they wanted. And early in the game, it was so easy for them that all they needed was one of these players to catch fire, and that's what happened in the fourth with Steph.
It was odd because the Cavs win that third quarter. They go into the fourth only down 7 after being down double digits at the half. And it never felt to me like the Cavs were ever in this basketball game. Like, right, I don't know if it felt like that to you. It felt to me like the Cavs were, and I should say they went in the fourth quarter down double digits. They got it down to 7 in the fourth quarter. It felt to me like the Warriors were in firm control the entire game. And the person who put them in control was Kevin Durant. Durant was extraordinary through 3 quarters. He was doing exactly what Golden State's asked him to do. High efficiency shots. He shot 70% from the game. Rebound and assist. Remember those 3 games against Houston where he had a combined 1 assist? He had 7 last night. Durant was excellent quarters 1 through 3, and then Steph was absolutely transcendent in the fourth. That's how you get the blowout victory.
I think the question we all want to know is how the Cavs would respond after what happened in game 1. You know, would they be motivated by it because they got so close, or would they be deflated because they got so close and weren't able to pull it out? How do you think they responded?
Well, number one, you can never recover from giving a game away. In a series against a team that has more talent than you, has better shooters than you, has a better resume than you, you can't give away one game. Now, JR, it seemed like he woke up a little bit as far as he at least acknowledged to his teammates that he made a mistake. I thought that was very, very important as far as before the team could move forward. But he's played like he did not only through the postseason, but the way he played through the regular season. JR has been awful. So even though they did give away game number 1, JR played exactly like he's played for the last 5 months. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, they did recover, But this series, when you give away a game, I believe that was going to be fatal. Like, the only chance they had to win was build a steal game number 1. Now it's a matter of the Warriors in game number 3. Can they get one of those games? Because they're just looking to win one game in Cleveland and close them out in game 5.
And as an added bonus for Golden State, when JaVale McGee, who you insert into the starting lineup, and Sean Livingston, your first guy off the bench now that Iggy's out, when those guys take 11 shots, and they make 11 shots. And those two guys combine for 22 points, while Jeff Green, J.R. Smith, Larry Nance, Kyle Korver, Jordan Clarkson, those 5 guys combine for 16 points on double the shots. There aren't paths to victory, especially when Durant shoots 70% and Steph has a 16-point fourth quarter.
All right, we're going to talk a lot more about this, but the Warriors are now up 2-0 over the Cleveland Cavaliers in the best of 7. Coming up, was the ending to Game 1 still looming over the Cavs last night? That's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First, we'll get to LeBron James in a minute. But first, Steph Curry, watch this, guys. Drawing the double team, finds the wide-open Jordan Bell for the dunk.
Man, they were getting everything they wanted at the rim, from the opening tip to
I thought he stepped out of bounds. Watch his heel on the shot.
Man,
I saw this during the game. Watch his right heel. Tell me that 15 don't step. Oh, tell me he's not out of bounds.
You mean like the back-breaking Klay Thompson 3 in overtime of Game 1, or you mean like the shot that went off Steph, obviously, in the second quarter of Game 2?
I need to talk to the commissioner, man. The refereeing in this series.
Ridiculous.
Say that again.
In one direction.
Hold on, refs. Hold on.
Hold on, Steph.
More Steph here. Loses his handle. Still able to hit an amazing 3 before the shot clock goes off.
See, Steph's the only player in league history that, whether it be this shot or the shot at the end of halftime, the end of the first half of Game 1, that when it leaves his hand, I'm like, oh, that's going to go in. Like, I expect those shots to go in.
And that's also like the used-to-be dunk that energizes the crowd.
Exactly.
Finally,
right.
LeBron James. First he hit KD with the spin, then he hits JaVale McGee with a spin.
My wash machine don't have 2 spin cycles.
Then he just makes the layup and one.
It just got 1. Like right there, I'm done.
1, 2.
This was the 8th different layup LeBron made and got fouled on. The only one they called, though.
All right, sticking with the finals, the Cavs find themselves now in an 0-2 hole despite having the best player in basketball. LeBron James, 29 points, 13 assists, which seems meh by LeBron's supernova standards this postseason. His teammates shot just 39% from the floor. That's neither good nor surprising, frankly. Here's what LeBron had to say after the game.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we have a Game 3 to play. And, you know, we got an opportunity to go home, and we played, you know, some really good basketball on our home floor, but, you know, that shouldn't give us any comfort. We should still be uncomfortable with the series as we were in Game 1 and as we were tonight.
So, CC, we touched on this a little bit earlier. Do you think the Cavs took any part of Game 1 with them into Game 2, and probably not the good part? Do you think it affected them in any way? Was it still looming over them?
Well, it's really hard to say the mindset of a team that's been to 4 straight championships. How would they be able to recover from a game that they actually outplayed the Warriors? But given the extra day, which we had between game number 1, they're professionals. I didn't see that like lingering on. I thought JR was still the JR. I didn't think that he was not being aggressive. So I think what happens to him is really the tall tale sign of, did it linger on? And with him, he played exactly the same way.
It's hard to tell if it's lingering with JR because he's been egregiously bad all year.
Right. I didn't think it affected them. I didn't think it affected the rest of the team. They had a good game plan. They were within 8 points late in the game. So if they had gotten off to a sluggish start or something, the Warriors came out playing some good basketball. The Cavs hung in there. LeBron was trying to probe to see where he could go offensively, what he needed to do. So, no, I don't think there was an effect from game number 1 into game number 2. And it's hard to prove something like that when you have 3 days between 2 games.
Listen, LeBron called that Game 1's loss one of, if not the most devastating loss of his career. And this is a guy that obviously, famously, has lost 5 games to lose an NBA Finals. And he called this one, Game 1 of an NBA Finals, maybe the most devastating loss of his career. But his level of play was at the exact level it's been all postseason. Extraordinary. Why was the loss so devastating? Well, he knows since the Warriors added Kevin Durant, they've never won in that building. Never won in that building. Going into game one, they were 0-5 in that building. Now they're 0-7 in that building. He knows how rare of an opportunity that was. But I agree with Cris in that JR is the guy you would think is going to have, no pun intended, a hangover from this. But JR scored all his points in the first quarter.
Yes.
JR actually was fine in the first quarter. He was terrible after that. Jordan Clarkson's not going to have a hangover from game one because Jordan Clarkson doesn't know what team he plays for, no matter what the game is. He played exactly a Jordan Clarkson game. Kyle Korver, unfortunately, played what Kyle Korver's been against this team in the finals, which is borderline unplayable. Love was a 20-10 guy in game one. He was a 20-10 guy in game two. The difference to me was LeBron didn't get 50 because the Warriors changed their game plan, and the Cavs defense was worse this game than it had been in game one.
So that's the takeaway. LeBron James needs to score 50 points for the Cavs to have a shot because you're not going to get anything else from the rest of his team.
The Cavs were in this game. Like, they had a shot in the fourth quarter. And LeBron or someone else having a huge quarter, that's the only thing that stopped it from going down to the wire. So LeBron still needs to get where is Jeff Green? The Jeff Green from Game 7 started for Kevin Love. Did they bring him to Oracle? Because he didn't make a positive contribution. So LeBron still needs help from the other players. I thought LeBron approached the game the right way as far as how many shots he was going to take and how he was going to distribute the basketball.
You think the Cavs could have won with the same stat line that LeBron had last night?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Because he said it wasn't just on LeBron, but that maybe the other guys need to step up. But the other guys just don't step up. And Kevin Love's not going to give you another 15, 20 points.
Well, there's not you can't, their game plan can't be LeBron score 50.
Of course.
And so last night, the stat line would have been different. He would have had more assists, had guys hit more shots. But the Jeff Green thing is real. He's shooting 31% in this series. The Cavs don't have a perimeter player shooting 40%, much less 50% for the series. Now, and here's the thing. We know what we're going to get from LeBron. LeBron in the last two NBA Finals. So against this team, LeBron in the NBA Finals, since Kevin Durant got there, we can show it to you. He's given you 35, 11, and 10 on 56% shooting. But look at the record. They're 1-6. You can't play at a higher level than LeBron is playing, and they're 1-6. Why? It's the same story. And last year they at least had Kyrie, but there's not going to be, there at least thus far has not been, the reliable other guys that you can say, okay, LeBron's going to give you is between 30 to 40 points. Where else are we getting the offense?
Yeah, and let's not forget, they're going against one of the greatest teams that's ever been put together. So you can't think, man, LeBron's got to do. No, it's on the other people. It's a team sport, and the other guys have to make contributions, and LeBron's not. He didn't get that in game one or in game two.
Is there too much then being placed on LeBron?
But that's been the story all year.
Yes,
Jenna.
it has.
Like,
and the other stories, the same. It's always the same stories with this team. There's no supporting cast. It's LeBron and one in every game. The and one is probably going to be Kevin Love. Sometimes it's Jeff Green.
Right, but it feels to me like there was never a reason to believe that the Cavs' other guys were going to get better as the competition got harder. Now, Cris and I battled all year long whether or not the other guys were going to be so bad to prevent them from even getting to this point. But I, as call it a LeBron James acolyte, whatever you want to say, even I didn't think they could be competitive in this series. That's why game one, whether or not it was deflating for the Cavs, whether or not the Cavs were able to get over it, the NBA viewing public, I don't think, got over it. Because I think the NBA viewing public knew the path to a competitive series was the Cavs not stealing that game, just not giving that game away or having it taken from them, depending on how you look at it. Because you wasted an all-time great performance from an all-time great player. I don't look at this box score last night and say, oh, well, here's why the Cavs will be fine. It's not like JR is going to go 2 for 9 again. No, on the road, he probably will. Oh, it's not like Jeff Green's going to go 2 for 7 again. No, on the road, he probably will.
Well, could you, either of you, look at this box score and say, okay, I could take something out of this, at least maybe something little, and give myself a shot to think the Cavs have any chance to be competitive in this series?
Yeah, I look at see the attendance, I see where the game was played, and realize it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
All right? That's what I looked at from the stat sheet. All right, that's the only thing. The Cavs have played better at home. And that's what you can rely on in game number 3 in a must-win for the Cavs.
And they still have the advantages on the offensive glass that they had in game 1 and game 2. They beat them by nearly 10. I think they had 9 more offensive rebounds in game 1. They're actually doing a decent job of taking care of the basketball. They're not turning it over a ton. Now, the Warriors have been better than they typically are at that as well. But there are also sometimes this is a simple sport. And sometimes when KD shoots 70% and gives you 26. Clay, who you didn't even know was going to play. You and I were talking before the game, see? And we thought, okay, if he plays, he's going to be limited. He didn't appear to be limited at all. Clay gives you 20, and then Steph...
On 13 shots.
On 13 shots. And Steph is having an awful game through 3 quarters. He was 6 of 18 from the field through 3 quarters, and he leaves the game as the overwhelming favorite to win Finals MVP because he was so good in the 4th. You're going to lose that basketball game. Like, I don't want to underplay it, but it's not, to me, it's not that surprising that last night went the way it did.
All right, Steph was great. Kevin Durant was great, too. Coming up, KD opens up about why he went to the Warriors. That's next on First Things First. Every day. Time for some stories to start your morning. Last night, the others for Golden State really stepped up. JaVale McGee was put in the starting lineup for Kevon Looney, and he responded by going 6 for 6. Sean Livingston also was in there, and he went 5 for 5. Those guys are perfect. Nick, what'd you make of the contributions last night?
It was critical for Golden State, especially to keep the margin early. My other commentary on that is, Sean Livingston, if you have bet on the other team or you're rooting for the other team, every time he hits a jump shot, it feels like 6 points. Because they're always contested. It's that herky-jerky mid-range flick of the wrist at the top, and it feels like in the finals he's shooting 100% in these finals, 80% in his career on those shots.
Yeah, Livingston's been a great pickup for them. He's been very consistent. You expect good play out of him. JaVale McGee is like finding money on the subway. Yeah. Like, is this real money? Is this counterfeit? Is this a setup? Is there a camera? Because JaVale will be back to normal in game number 3.
At the end of the 3rd quarter last night, Steph Curry fired off a last-second three-pointer, landed near Kendrick Perkins. All 17 feet of Perkins didn't move out of the way. After the game, a couple of Warrior players took exception to Perkins not moving, calling it dangerous. CeCe, what'd you make of this?
Yeah, the Warriors are always complaining. Now, how dangerous was it? Like, okay, like, seriously. Like, he wasn't on the court, like, in a danger. I watched the Warriors. Now, they get in dangerous fashion on the court. Their bench, like, I watched their bench more so. Kendrick Perkins is there. They don't like Kendrick. They didn't like what happened in game number 1. Also, he's got some history with Kevin Durant because he knows KD from OKC. So he's like, I know these guys aren't tough, but they try to act like they're tough when the lights come on.
Steph was nowhere close to landing on Perkins' feet. When he was walking up court, Perkins didn't move his legs back like when someone's trying to pass you in a theater aisle or something. Listen, man, Perk's not going to do anything nice for you, but your point's the important one. Zaza Pachulia jumps up off the bench and yells in people's ear. Kendrick's not doing that.
Back in February, when the Cavs traded for Rodney Hood, he was expected to be a key cog in their lineup. This postseason for the Cavs, he's averaged just 4 points per game. Very non-cog-like. Entering game 2, Hood said this is the first time in his life that he's been getting DNPs. Talks about his playing time. Nick, what do you make of Hood's comments?
I understand his frustration. I know he refused to check into the game back in round 1, I believe it was, and since then, or back in round 2, he's been out of the rotation. But if I'm Rodney Hood, I'm like, man, JR threw hot soup on a coach. He can't lose his starting job. I make one mistake, I can't get back on the court. Now, he was playing very poorly, but not as poorly as some of the guys like Jordan Clarkson getting minutes. I understand his frustration.
No, I understand his frustration. He's an important part in his career. He's in the last year of his contract. Yep. Utah gave up on him in the trade. We thought coming to Cleveland, he's more athletic. He can score the ball. They're having problems with wing players, no athleticism, and lack of scoring.
Speaking of the Cavs supporting cast, outside of Kevin Love, they're just not good. JR still searching for a shot. Like, where did he put that thing? CeCe, what do you make of the Cavs supporting cast struggles in game 1 and 2 and all the other games?
No, this is not news. This is what I've been talking about all season. They're not a great basketball team. They have one great player. The supporting cast on the road, they don't show up. So, no, I'm not surprised at all. That's why I thought it was hard to impossible for them to win this series. The Warriors are very, very talented. And I believe there's at least 3 or 4 teams with more talent than the Cavs have. This just happened to be the matchup because the Cavs came out of the West. They deserved that in winning that 7-game series against the Celtics. But this is not a real talented team, not a team that matches up well against the Warriors. And just because we saw game number 1 and then we saw the blowout in game number 2 late, I haven't changed what I said for you. I would be surprised if it went 5 games. Like, I thought this was going to go 4 games, and nothing's changed, Nick.
Listen, some of the supporting cast stuff, there's nothing you can do. Like, Jeff Green has earned his minutes, especially with what he did in Game 6 and 7. He's shooting 31% this series. That's a bad beat, as I would put it. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Kyle Korver absolutely earned opportunities in this series by what he did being the Cavs' second-best player leading up to the finals. He's shooting 16%. Not from 3, from the field, 16%. I mean, you got JR shooting 26%. Now, he was only shooting 36% for the playoffs prior to this. But 36 is awful. 26 is unplayable, but he's still going to play 35-plus minutes.
I blame that on you.
Why? What'd I do?
Because you said in the Pacers series, oh, they can't play worse. Then they came back and gave you a series. Then you went all back in after the Raptors series, and then you're like, oh, they can't play worse. The Celtics, and then now in the finals, the supporting class has played worse.
Fair enough, but I want to bring up one guy who I blame him, and I blame the coach for playing him. Can we show this Jordan Clarkson highlight for a moment, please? Here's Jordan Clarkson in garbage time.
You mean video, because there can't be a highlight.
Well, here's why it's relevant. Jordan Clarkson in garbage time yesterday. Watch this. So why are we showing this nothing play? Jordan Clarkson passes to Rodney Hood. He gets a layup. Why would we show that on television? That was Jordan Clarkson's first assist since the Toronto series. The Toronto series. Since then, he's played almost 120 minutes. He's taken 57 shots. I don't even think that's an assist, but they gave it to him. They gave him an assist on that play.
I mean, you talking about a stat stuffer.
Since the Toronto series, Jordan Clarkson, Tom Haberstroh pointed this out, he's played nearly 120 minutes. He's taken 56 shots. He now has 1 assist. He has, for the playoffs, the 3rd worst true shooting percentage of any player in playoff history.
Wow.
Why he is still their first guy or second guy off the bench is a move. I think Ty Lue is an underrated coach, but this is an inexplicable move. When LeBron's playing the whole game, if your point guard goes out, you don't have to put another point guard in. And if you need another wing player, that's where I would give Rodney Hood a shot. That's where I would give my guy, Jetty Osman, a shot. I would dust off Jose Calderon before I would play Jordan Clarkson another minute. He's been awful.
Well, I'd love to know who you guys think, who you'd like to see. Not that there's just a bevy of options, but who you'd like to see either have more of a role, less of a role, obviously, besides Jordan.
There is no more or less a role for any of the players. The Cavs role players will play better at home. LeBron will play a great game. There is no mystery. He played 100 basketball games. There's no bus coming. We got Coach Pagano coming. He'd be like, hey, man, ain't no cavalry coming to save you. Like, these are the players you have, and you can't just make up stuff. It's not hocus pocus. You don't get to the finals and change your identity. This is the Cavs teams that we saw. Oh, they were the best seed, the first seed in the East. No, they weren't. The second seed. No, they were the 4th seed in the East. This is what you should expect in a final against one of the best teams that we've seen.
And the Warriors right now, aside from Nick Young, their worst field goal percentage of anyone in their rotation is Steph at 45%. And he's right now the Vegas favorite to win Finals MVP. Flip side, the Cavs don't have a single perimeter player shooting 40%. They got 3 guys in the rotation shooting less than 30%. Like, Love's been fine. LeBron's been great. Nance and Tristan have been okay. And the entire perimeter unit has been disastrously bad.
All right, more on last night's game now, and a peek into Kevin Durant. Found his stroke, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. The Athletic recently published an in-depth look into KD's decision to join the Warriors back in the summer of 2016. Durant said that, quote, validation from his peers was a big motivation in his decision to join Golden State, because caring is sharing. Nick, what's your reaction to Durant's comments?
And my reaction is I'm glad he shared this, because fans of the league, just people that read this, should make everybody feel better in this regard. It doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how famous you are. A lot of people are dealing with the same issues. Kevin Durant was, before he went to Golden State, a 4-time scoring champion, 6-time All-NBA, been to the NBA Finals, been to 4 Western Conference Finals, was widely considered one of the 3 best players in the sport. And he asked the Golden State Warriors, why do you want me? Like, that is it. And the fact that he would share that, I mean, it is insight into whatever insecurities or whatever need for validation he has that I think a lot of people have. This is not, when I say insecurities, I am not taking a shot at Kevin Durant at all. I think it's admirable that he shared this. I think people look at it on his face and say, this is crazy. How would you not think teams would want you? You're one of the best players alive. But Kevin Durant needed to hear it. He needed to, he said, hear from his peers how good they thought he was. I would think winning MVP would get you that. All those scoring titles would get you that. But for KD, it didn't.
I'm not surprised at all. He's just like most human beings. Most people that I meet, they need validation. Now, I can relate to it as if, because I've played with a lot of athletes. And even though they have unbelievable talents, unbelievable skills, a lot of them have very, very low self-esteem. And they need the roar of the crowd. They need either their peers, coaches, to be able to lift them up. Now, for me, I'm not that type of person. I don't need all that. I'm self-motivated. You don't need to tell me. I could care less how you feel about me. As long as I'm providing a service for you, if I'm doing something, I believe that I'm going to work hard enough that you're going to respect what I do. But I can respect what Kevin Durant, because I've met a lot of athletes that are exactly like this.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, because when you said you're not surprised you met a lot of athletes like this, when we were talking about, I think it was James Harden, whomever it was in the last round, and I said, listen, shouldn't this guy think he's the best player in the world? And the point, or it may have been KD even, and your point was, man, don't you think most NBA superstars think they're the best in the world? That seems like, and I think that's more along the lines of your mentality. You went out there every week saying, man, I'm going to be the best football player on this field. I'm going to be the best wide receiver in the league. Like, this is how I carry myself. This is who I am. That is a big, to me, dichotomy between that mindset and the mindset of, man, do you want me? Do you like me? Like, so do you just put those like two different?
Well, I think that because you have to know Kevin Durant. You have to know where he came from. He came from D.C., but he's not really a street kid, all right? He decides to go to University of Texas. Very, very strange choice, because people pretty much knew he's going to be one and done. Now, people don't realize he struggled as far as his high school scores, so Texas was one of the few schools that would take the chance and allow him to, because the test, you run out of time taking the test. But they were willing to wait on it. The last chance he took taking the test, he passed it so that he was going to be eligible. He was amazing in college basketball. Then he goes off to where? Seattle. Then he's partnered with Russell Westbrook. So the narrative was people don't like Russ, so he thought people didn't like him. I had said this a long time ago, and it's not a negative comment. After meeting his mom and spending some time with her, Kevin Durant's a mama's boy. A lot of us grow up to be mama's boys. There's nothing wrong with that. So he's a guy. He's not a big city guy. He got comfortable in OKC. He got a lot of criticism because who his partner was in Russ, that he thought people didn't like him because they didn't like Russ. So I'm not surprised. There's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of talented people that I see every day. They need to be boosted up. They need their confidence to come from other people and outside of themselves, because they don't believe that they're great at what they do.
And so much of what we've learned about KD this year feeds into his insecurities, just the Twitter accounts and responding to what people say. And anytime you're more concerned with the way people feel about you, which is basically what he's done, his relationship with Russ, all the whole cupcake war, like the need to write stuff on your shoe, a lot of it comes from him maybe not thinking or not playing like he's the best in the league.
There was also an interesting comment, if you follow some of the Warriors beat writers this weekend on a podcast, where I think it was Marcus Thompson, but I might be wrong about which beat writer it was, when he was asked about KD re-signing in Golden State. Because people should know KD could leave this offseason. Now, nobody's talked about it because nobody thinks it's even a possibility. And he said, if you'd asked me 2 months ago, I said it's 100%. He said, now I've got it somewhere in the 90s. And so I would be shocked if KD goes anywhere. But the reason he brought up that it's now at least the door slightly ajar is this type of thing. And by that, I mean this. KD thought going there and winning the championship, getting the finals MVP, year one win as brilliantly as it could have, aside from the time he missed an injury, would fix this stuff for him. And there's no fixing this stuff. Anybody that's ever dealt with validation issues or self-esteem issues, whatever it is, no external factor is going to patch that hole. Like it's got to be something you do for yourself. And so I do wonder how much KD is enjoying this. I wonder how much KD is feeling like he made the right or the wrong decision. We've heard from his own words that right after he made the decision, he panicked. He was like, did I make the biggest mistake of my life? And so I think this is more of a window. And I do credit Kevin Durant for being open about this and letting us hear it.
Yeah, it is good to hear, and I'm happy for him. This is the Kevin Durant that I've been telling you about. This is who he is, and we just have to accept it. Our life is not public like his, and we have all kind of things in our life that are very, very similar to Kevin Durant. But we criticize him when he has a lot of things just like normal people. So I try not to do that. I got a lot of respect for what he does, and he's one of the greatest basketball players that we've seen.
You guys want to talk some football?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Coming up, former NFL head coach Chuck Pagano is in the house. Talk some football next on First Things First. Back here in First Things First, former NFL coach Chuck Pagano is here. Hey, Coach.
How you doing?
We needed you today. Love talking basketball, but every once in a while we need an injection of football. Otherwise, CC just,
Welcome to New York, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Man, you look good. Look like you're, you know how they take pictures like the president when they go into the White House, then afterwards? Like, I've been knowing Coach for a little bit, and now that he's out of football, it looks like he's been rejuvenated.
It's the opposite effect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Different from the last time we saw each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So happy to have you here in New York.
Recharging, resetting.
Good.
Life's good, man.
Well, we're happy to have you. All right, Coach, let's talk about Dez Bryant. One player, 32 teams. The assumption is he's going to land somewhere. Dez has now been on the market for 6 weeks, and he's still without a team. Now reports are surfacing that Dez will wait until the start of training camp in late July to sign that one-year prove-it deal. Coach, why do you think it is that he's still unsigned, and would you want Dez on your team?
You know what? You can never have enough talent, on your football team. Mm-hmm. And, every situation is different. Situation's got to be right for the organization. Situation's got to be right for Dez. His resume speaks for itself. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal football player, and he's played great football for a long time. You got locker room concern. Do you have a strong enough locker room? Do you have the character? You got the leadership in the locker room to handle a guy coming in like this? Do you need a player like this? I mean, they vetted this guy. They know him. Dez is Dez. And I don't think his game is going to change, but he can still play. Is he a 1? Is he a 2? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So somebody is going to see this guy at some point. And this isn't the time. There's 90-man rosters right now, and all these teams have a ton of young talent right now. They've got their draft choices. They've got college free agents. They got tryout guys. They got a bunch of guys. You don't need to bring this guy in right now.
Oh, so we shouldn't be worried about him not signing right now?
Absolutely not.
Okay. At what
there's
point?
No way, because Dez is working out. Dez is grinding somewhere. Everybody always worried about it. I worried about it. The GM worried about it. Ownership worried about it. Hey, we want our guys here. We want them in the locker room. We need the chemistry. We need this. We need that. We'd love to have these guys here. But those great players, this guy's a competitor. He's passionate. He loves the game. He can make plays. But the only
issue with him is the locker room stuff, basically. It's the off-the-field stuff. So wouldn't you want that earlier on? Like, why wouldn't you want to bring him in right now?
You know what? Again, these guys are all looking at these young guys. Mm-hmm. They don't need to have him in their camp right now. It isn't like you can't bring him in, start a training camp, middle of training camp, last week in preseason, and say, okay, hey, Dez, look, run 14 yards down the field, run an out route. Dez knows how to run routes, and it's all based on, okay, are we going to run a bang at you? You're going to go off your third outside step or your fourth outside step? That's not going to be an issue. Now, the chemistry with the quarterback, whoever it is, throwing and catching those kind of things and fitting in, they're vetting and looking at all this young talent right now. They know what Dez is. They don't need him in there right now, but he's going to sign with somebody. Would I love to have him on my team? Absolutely.
Yeah, now, Coach, I know you, and I know some of your history through multiple stops through college football, because that's where you really cut your teeth. And, man, you've taken on hundreds of kids like Dez Bryant. As far as his personality, people might have some question marks about off the field, but, man, you've made a living turning guys like this around. So you're not worried about Dez and his personality. You're talking about the skill set, and right now, is he a number one? If I have a number one, is he a number two? And can I get him signed for the right amount of money? Those seem to be the only concerns that you have.
You just check off all those boxes. And if you can check off all those boxes and you feel like, hey, look, I can build a relationship with this guy. We can sit down and have a constructive conversation and say, okay, hey, here's what it is, and here's what we need from you. And this is exactly how we're going to hold you accountable. I'm going to own my stuff. You're going to own your stuff. You can come in and help us doing A, B, and C. And if you're good with that, and you've got a veteran locker room and you've got enough vets in there, just like Belichick back in '07 when he took on, nobody does it better than Coach Belichick. You know, Corey Dillon, Blunt, you go back to Randy Moss, when they traded for him in 2007. I was in Oakland in '05 and '06, and Randy was there. You know, and so he takes him, and all he does is go out and break Jerry Rice's, you know, single-season touchdown reception record and catches 23 touchdowns and the most yards he had because they had a conversation. And they vetted it, and they went back and forth and said, you know what, we've got the right locker room, we've got the right quarterback, this, that, and the other, and it's the right fit. So there's going to be a situation, there's going to be the right circumstances for Dez, and he's going to land somewhere and continue to be a productive football player.
You've said a couple times the right locker room. Can you describe to the audience, people such as myself that haven't spent time in those locker rooms like you two have, what does that look like? What is the right locker room for Dez Bryant? What type of quarterback? Is it about skill or is it about age and experience? What type of coach? Like, what is the right type of locker room for Dez Bryant?
Well, again, it's the culture, it's the identity, it's the culture in the locker room, and do you have enough veteran guys in there? Do you have an experienced quarterback like Eli Manning? Do you have Tom Brady as your quarterback? Do you have Andrew Luck as your quarterback? Is there enough veteran, vets on that football team, on the defensive side, on the offensive side, because you're going to have conversations. I had conversations with those guys. Back in 15, after our AFC championship, where we got beat by New England in the AFC championship in 14, and then we signed, Frank Gore, and we signed Andre Johnson. I knew those guys obviously from the University of Miami, but you talk to your vets. And I know Coach Belichick has conversation. Other coaches have conversations with their vets in that locker room and say, "How do you guys feel about this situation?" The teams that talk to those players and have relationships. That's your team, that's your locker room. And so you have conversations with those people and everybody's on board with it, and you feel, because if you got a young quarterback, you got a rookie or second-year quarterback, and you got a bunch of young players in there, certain teams, certain coaches, certain GMs. A lot
like Dez had in Dallas.
Certain GMs, certain coaches might shy away and say, you know what, we don't want to go down this road. We probably can't take this on, whatever that is. And I see a passionate guy. I see a competitor. I see a guy that can still make, football plays. So, again, it's got to be the right situation, the right fit.
Talking about competitor, I know a guy that you like. You and him, I have talked about him. And I would say your career would change if he had stayed healthy. Andrew Luck. What do you expect from Andrew in 2018 as a starting quarterback? As we start this season, and we haven't seen him in 18 months since he had surgery.
Yeah, I was just with Andrew. I was back in Indy, for our 6th annual Chuck Strong Gala, and Andrew was kind enough to come out. He was out there every year supporting that cause, and he looked phenomenal. And we've seen the pictures. We saw the picture. I think everybody saw the picture of, him in a tank top on a bicycle from the Indy 500. And, I mean, he's strapped, he's ripped. Mentally, he's good.
I saw that picture, Chuck. That picture looks good. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, I mean, he looks
in
my wife, my 3 daughters, my granddaughter, they all thought he looked great, too.
He did.
So, anyway, he's in a great place mentally. He's in a great place physically. I expect Andrew to be the old Andrew and come back and play great football, this season and beyond. Obviously, he's got a lot of work to do. He's got to get back on the grass. He's got to start throwing the football. All those things. That's going to happen. But he's in a great place. I love Andrew Luck, and he's a phenomenal. He got me more years.
He's still a phenom.
He is. He's a phenom, and unlike. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that came out this year and last year and the years before that, but he was the most ready-made, especially in today's football when the offseason, you really don't have an offseason. and we didn't get Andrew until the middle of June because of his graduation at Stanford. We got him for a rookie minicamp, and then he came in the middle of June, and he's a brilliant guy. He learned the playbook, within 1 week, and the rest is history. He's a great player, and I got great respect and love for that dude.
Just follow up on Andrew Luck quickly here. Was his competitiveness and almost his thirst to get back on the football field maybe part of his own worst enemy there after he got hurt?
Him not being able to play killed him.
Yeah.
The great players, Cris will tell. I mean, when you can't be there for your teammates and your team, and you're sitting there, recovering and rehabbing from an injury, and you can't be on the football field, it kills you. And last year, it killed him. He was constantly, hey, I'm trying to get back. The great competitors want to be out there. There's other guys that, they're not built like that. They don't have that in their DNA. They're not wired like that. But this cat, I mean, he's dying to get back on the football field, and so I think he understands that. Okay, look, I got to do A, B, C, and D, to get myself
keep myself
back.
healthy this time, yeah.
And make sure I'm ready, because it's the mental part, the physical part. He's got to build chemistry with all the new guys on that team. He's got to throw the football, and then he's going to have to start taking some licks at some time.
If I own an NFL team, Chuck can coach for me.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Chuck Strong.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good seeing
Absolutely.
you.
Coach, thank you so much
Yeah,
for hanging out with us.
Thanks
Great
for
to
having
see
me.
you.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
Get back on the grass. Luck, we need you on the grass.
Coming up,
That's old ball
NBA champ
coach.
Brian Scalabrine is going to join the show next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. We welcome in Brian Scalabrine. Hey, Brian, thanks
Good
for
to
joining
see
us.
you. It's a pleasure
Thanks
having
for
you on the
having
show,
me.
man.
Welcome.
We'll give a pound
Oh,
over
I'll
here.
take that
There
pound.
we
Thank you for
go.
the acknowledgement. Brian played basketball at the highest level, and yet he came in here and gave us props for getting up super early in the morning,
Yeah,
working
TV,
the morning show.
TV in the morning, man. You guys bring it.
No,
That's
we go
tough.
NBA. You brought it, so it works both ways.
Bring. That's the same.
It's all good. All
Thanks
right.
for joining us, bro.
Hey, how did the Cavs and Warriors follow up an insane Game 1 of the NBA Finals with Game 2? But this one not as dramatic. Everyone knew the score in this one. And this one not as close. Warriors actually played 4 quarters. LeBron played well, but had a modest 29. Steph Curry, though, carried the Warriors, especially late. 33 points, including 9 3-pointers. That was an NBA Finals record. Brian, I'll start with you. How do you think the Warriors were able to win Game 2 so convincingly last night?
It was easy for them because they came out with the right mindset. Steve Kerr made a nice adjustment. No more setting screens. Let's get out of these screens. Boom. JaVale McGee, dunk. They go 5 for 5 in the restricted area right off the jump. And then all of a sudden, the Cavs defense got lax. You cannot be lax when you're playing the Golden State Warriors in Oracle, because these guys will move the ball. They'll pass it. They'll hit the paint. And they were unbelievable in the paint through the first 3 quarters. And then Steph goes off 5 for 5 in that 4th quarter. Really, the Cavs had really no business of being in that game. It was closer than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, right, what we saw from the Warriors, that's what I expected in Game 2.
From a basketball standpoint, slow it down for me. What was the strategy? Now, we know they do a lot of pick and roll, but what did Golden State and Steve Kerr do, especially in those first 12 minutes, to get those lunks, those layups and dunks?
So great call. So normally they were coming in, they were setting screens, they were coming out, and that was just easy switch. What you saw yesterday, JaVale McGee run up, slip out of the screen. Anytime that happens, it makes it difficult to be solid in your coverages. Should I switch when a guy doesn't set? So you have a little bit of indecisiveness. Everyone's worried about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, for, deservingly so.
Right.
And then guys like JaVale McGee, Livingston, and Draymond Green, that was where the defense broke down. Those guys got easy baskets. Restricted area shots for the Warriors and Oracle will eventually open up the 3-point line.
It was exactly what the Rockets did to the Warriors in games 4 and 5 of the previous round. The Rockets saw the Warriors were switching everything, and in that must-win game 4, they started slipping those screens. Got Capella involved, got P.J. Tucker involved at the rim. The Warriors took that game plan, something they've done in the past as well, and executed it to perfection. I don't think it's a coincidence that happened at the beginning of the game, and then also again at the beginning of the second half, and then Steph Curry gets off in the 4th quarter.
Exactly.
Now, listen, part of that, I understand. There's the shot right before the shot clock buzzer, and there is some, but a lot of it also was Steph was getting separation because they weren't being as honest on the screen switching, because they couldn't, because they were getting torched at the rim throughout. That's why this team presents so many bad choices. There are no good, Jenna, you've been asking us throughout the morning, like, what can the Cavs do? There are no good choices here. And when Durant, Steph's the story because of what he did in the 4th quarter. Durant played an almost perfect basketball game.
Efficient, all the way.
As efficient as you can get. He rebounded for him. He moved the ball. The ball didn't stick in his hands. And the only time he stuck with those ISOs for more than 2 dribbles was when he had a significant mismatch. Like, that's what Durant scoring 26 on 14 shots.
Yeah.
That is the ideal situation for Golden State.
Did you take anything positive out of what Cleveland did?
Well, they know what they shouldn't do.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
there you go.
they know. And listen, they're going to win Game 3. Cleveland is going to win Game 3. They're going to come in.
I'm sorry. Let me just sit on that for a second. You're sure the Cavs are winning Game 3 back in Cleveland?
Yeah, because they're not going to. Everything that they did wrong, they're not going to do again. They played. You're going to take what you saw in Game 1, the energy, the us against the world mentality, and that's going to come into Game 3. LeBron does not. Everyone's like, LeBron has to score 51. So they were at 102 yesterday. At the end of regulation in Game 1, they were at 107. So, like, the scoring is that much different. They do need guys like Kevin Love to be better. That's no question about it. They need guys like J.R. Smith to make open shots. The Cavs are going to be better at home. The Warriors will not be as comfortable. This is all going to come down to really Game 4.
Listen, and we're going to get more to the Cavs side of things with you later in the show. I want to talk about Steph, though, for a second, because if people just wake up this morning and watch just sports television or just see the box score, they feel like Steph was dominant. Man, Steph was 6 of 18 through 3 quarters. Steph was clearly the 4th most effective Warrior through 3 quarters. And then in the 4th, he had 16 points. He was magnificent in the 4th quarter, 5 for 5 from 3. I can't remember. Maybe you played with a guy that you can say that could do something similar. But a guy have the ability to just flip a switch from deep the way Steph can, to where he was having a bad game. It was more going to be another, the Warriors win, but Steph's not great. And then the 4th quarter, he was the difference. I can't remember another guy that could go from that cold to that hot that quickly.
Well, that's the MO of him, right? It only takes one. And he's had bad games and then turns around and has great quarters. And some of these great quarters are 18 points, 20 points in the quarter. Yeah, he was special, but I'm with you. I think he was special in the 4th. I think throughout the game, he played with an aggressive mindset. He was, and he wanted. It's almost like he's like, this is my turn to get the MVP. I know all the talk out there about, it doesn't bother me. I need to play aggressive. Like, Steph Curry is going out with the mindset, like, I'm going to get the MVP this year, and he's proven it. And with him, and I think with the Warriors, like, pick your poison, whatever one you want. He is going to play well. He's going to have those runs. And when he makes one, especially in that building, he has the ability to go off.
Now, Brian, I have to lean on you for this one, because this is something that, in watching you throughout your career, this is something that you're very familiar with. The Cavs need to make this ugly. Not that you're an ugly guy. But
my wife has been telling me that once in a while.
But as a role player, you know exactly what it takes playing a team like Golden State. Now, I enjoy watching LeBron play against the best, but I would have preferred the Celtics been in this game, because I believe the Celtics would have come in with the mindset to be able to defend the Warriors better and more physical to make the game ugly, the way they track LeBron, full court press. I believe that. Now, I know we're not talking about the Celtics. How do the Cavs make this game ugly from a handsome guy?
So that's good, right? So they did all right. They had 16 offensive rebounds. They need to turn the Warriors over. They need to pressure the Warriors. Now, you're going to give up some things, but you can't come in and limp into your defense and expect the Warriors to not have a great offensive night. You have to make them miss. You can't sit there and say, well, if we switch and this guy gets an open shot, maybe they'll miss it, maybe they won't. No, you have to turn up the physicality. And making it ugly, you make it ugly. The more scraps, the more like face-to-face you get with the Cavs, that's an advantage to them.
So you enjoyed the ending of game number 1 with Tristan.
No question.
They should have continued that in the 1st quarter and on into game 2.
No question. The Cavs have to have that mentality. And if I'm T. Lue and guys don't have that mentality, I'm going with somebody else. It's not hard to get a role player to come up and goon up the game, as T. Lue used.
You're the second
I was just going to say, we get these former NBA players that come on, and it's the same thing.
Everyone wants Kendrick Perkins to just get 5 minutes just to throw some elbows.
Wow, I mean, it's going to be tough for him to keep up with those guys.
All right, maybe 45 seconds.
That's your boy.
He's my boy, but man,
he was slow in his prime.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, they have to make the game tough. Like, you're not going to go in there and just go up and down with these guys. Now, it's going to be easier in Cleveland. They'll rough up the game in Cleveland. But you have to have that mentality. You got to be like, we're in the 90s, and we're like gumming up the game, gooning up the game, as T. Lue likes to say. You will not beat the Warriors. I don't think they're going to win anyways. Right. But you're not going to get a game unless you make this a tough battle for them.